Gymro Cymraeg iaith cyntau'r carn ac yn falch o hynny hefyd, ond heno dwi'n mynd i wneud yr araith yma drwy'r iaith Sbaen, y iaith Saesneg, a mae hynna fel bod na ddim camddealltwriaeth, just rhag ofn. I'm Welsh first language, I'm proud of the fact that I am Welsh, but tonight I will be talking to you in English, and that's because I don't want anything lost in translation at all. I could have talked a little bit about the report, but I know that's going to be done now in a bit. Talk about the facts and figures, the horrendous facts and figures, if I was to be blunt, that are held within that report. And in a short while, I know that Sir David Attenborough will be addressing people in London as well, and a more knowledgeable, a more erudite speaker you couldn't hope to have. He is, to millions of people all over the world, hundreds of millions of people, the voice that wildlife until recently never had, and I'm so glad that we've got him. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about my own little patch. It's an area that I've known for 50 years now, and I've grown to love very much. It's not very big. It's roughly 210,000 square kilometres. I call it Cymru. Most of you will call it Wales. It's a terrific place. You can walk from mountain top to seashore in just 2 hours. And I was reminded just how stunning it is when I drove down here on a lovely May afternoon, sun shining along the verges, cuckoo flower with a delicate pink colours, and Briallu Mair, lovely Welsh name. Cowslips too. Just a beautiful thing to behold on the way down. And if I may take you back to when I grew up, not when I was a little lad, but in my teens, I'm going back now to the 70s, to the area around Llanwddin. It's a wonderful area. It's where I was brought up. It's where my heart will always be. And I spent so many hours and days with my little dog Bitu, wandering all over the place, up on the moors, up on the Berwyn moors, looking at hen harriers and merlin and black grouse and these amazing carnivorous plants, sundews and butterworts and curlew, the bubbling call of the curlew. Every valley had a pair of curlew. Every valley had a cuckoo. And then fishing. I used to do a lot of fishing when I was a young lad. I used to cast in. Wasn't a very good fisherman. You'd cast in. You'd watch the birds. You'd watch the wildlife. You'd catch quite a few fish too. A lot of trout in there. You take 2, don't matter if you caught 10. You take 2, you put whatever else you caught back in the river. And while you were there, you see watervoles, lots of watervoles. Some of the banks were like bits of Swiss cheese all along there. There were that many watervoles. And the hay meadows too, adjacent to the River Fernway, owned by the local farmers, Cled Dairy Farm and Parry Tinner Mice. We used to help with the harvest, always a late harvest, July harvest. They'd cut the hay meadows. And the hay meadows were incredible places then, full of flowers, full of grasshoppers. That's what I remember. Swallows and house martins swooping low, feeding on the insects, and the sound, the constant sound of grasshoppers. They're not the memory of a small child. I'm not looking back through rose-tinted glasses at all. This is what I remember as a young lad and throughout my teens as well. I've moved about 30 minutes away to live. I'll never leave Mid Wales except in a box. And I still go back up there as often as I can. But it's not the same. It's a changed place now. It's a changed place. Yes, the people have changed, but the whole nature of that area has changed too. The moors. Still a few lovely things to see up there. The hen harriers are there, the merlin are there. The curlew have gone. 24 odd pairs when I used to live there. 3 now. I was talking to the warden. I was up there just yesterday. 3 pairs left. The valleys are quiet. Cuckoos, didn't hear a single one when I was up there yesterday. You go down onto the rivers. Talking to the old boy I used to go fishing with. He's 88. He said, Iolo bach, he said, do you know what? I hardly go anymore. Very few fish there. Used to be a very odd day when you didn't catch anything. Now you catch something, it's a red letter day. And the watervoles. I walked the river, Davan Hill, the section of river where I used to fish yesterday. Some of the holes are still there. The waterfalls are long, long gone. 90% of our waterfalls have gone in the last 30 years. And the hay meadows, every single one has gone. Every single one. Wales-wide, we've lost 99% of our hay meadows since the end of the Second World War. 99%. And the moorland, my beloved moorland, I love the moors. I grew up on the moors. I love the moors. Berwyn is one of the most important bit of moorland in southern Britain, and probably the best protected. 44% of those moors have gone. 44% has gone. And even worse, the other side of the village, Llanbryn Mair Moor. Used to bike over there and walk it. Used to have golden plover and dunlin and curlew and short-eared owl and hen harrier, red grouse, black grouse, sacrificed by the then Nature Conservancy Council in the 1980s, sacrificed for forestry. It's now under alien conifers and larch. I was up there 3 years ago, and I'm not ashamed to say I cried. It's like going and looking at war graves. That was what came to mind, row upon row of war graves. Every single tree is a death knell, is a nail in the coffin of that moor. No point going up there looking for birds now, they're virtually all gone. And people ask me, are you angry about that? Are you upset at that? Yeah, of course I am. Of course I am. I love the air. I love Wales. And to see this going on really hurts. It really hurts. I said, do you blame the man with a plough up on Llanbryn Mair Moor? Do you blame the people who went and stuck the trees in the ground? Do you blame the forestry and the farming for cutting into the Berwyns, for pollution? I said, no, I don't. No, I don't at all. They have just taken what money was available. They've used the grant system to do what they were encouraged to do. That's all they've done. I don't blame them at all. My anger, and it is an anger, it's a venom, is aimed at those grey, fat, salaried, spineless bureaucrats who sat by and watched all of this happen. People in key positions who could have made a big difference, who were so concerned with moving up that career ladder, adding to that great big fat pension, rubbing shoulders with the right people, going to the right meetings, saying the right things, that they either forgot about or didn't care about what was going on around them. Those are the ones that I am angry with. And I tell you this now, you will pay for this. You will answer for this. It won't be to me. I wish it were. I wish it were, but it won't be to me, and it won't be to your peers. It'll come. It'll come in 20, 30, 40 years' time. It'll come when you are with your grandchildren. You might be reading a story, a simple story about a Welsh farmer who goes out to feed his sheep with lapwings, peewits, whirling overhead. Or you might be helping them with their homework, their Welsh or English homework, and it might be a bit of poetry about the song of the skylark as it climbs and climbs and climbs towards the heavens, singing all the way up. Or it might simply be that you are looking at a magazine or a book or the internet at a beautiful photograph of a colourful hay meadow, a meadow full of flowers, your buttercups and your dandelions, globe flower maybe, the odd orchid in there as well, and hovering above them will be the butterflies, the stunning common blue or the orange tip, and you have swallows and house martins feeding away there as well. And your grandkids will turn to you and they'll say, Tide, or Nine, Grandad, what was it like? What was it like walking through these hay meadows? It must have been lovely to have skylarks all around you singing away. Do you know, it must have been fantastic to walk through these damp fields and have these funny birds with these little caps on called peewits going all around you. What was it like, Grandad? And then they'll look you in the eye as only children can. And they'll say, hold on now, Grandad. You said you worked in conservation. You said you were an important man in conservation. Why, Grandad? Why didn't you look after these for me? Why can't I go out with you now and see these things? Why didn't you do more to look after them? And I tell you then, and only then, if you've got an ounce of humanity left in you, only then will your conscience be pricked. And only then will you realize, despite all of this climbing up the career ladder, being friends with the right people, saying all the right things, getting a fat pension, despite all of that, your whole career will have amounted to absolutely nothing. Nothing. And even worse is that you will have let your grandchildren down. We only have one Earth, one planet. It's not as if we can say, well, we made a mess of this, let's get the other one in and start all over again. We cannot do that. And bear in mind, I stand before you not as a long-haired, tree-hugging hippie who's done the course, who's read the books. I stand before you as someone who was born, brought up, has lived all of his life, still lives and works in the Welsh countryside. I've seen these things happen. I've seen these things going on. Now, it's not too late. Almost, but not quite. And we really are on the brink of disaster. Over the past 4 or 5 years, I've seen a massive change, a huge decline in once common butterflies, once common birds, once common plants. They are disappearing. We need to wake up. We need to change things, and we need to change things now. What do we change? A whole host of complex things, but we can start with some of the laws we pass. The Marine Bill recently, when it came in, is quite a nice, strong law. By the time it got chewed up and spat out again, it was a watered-down version of what first went in there. We've got to stop that. We've got to bring to an end these endless meetings, committees, subcommittees, action plans, recovery plans. There's far too much of this. As my dad was alive, he'd call it lapwast, just empty words leading to meaningless sentences. It's time for all of that to stop. It is time for action. It's time that we actually did something. That has to translate out into the Welsh countryside. The bird watchers here, the bird organisations here, we should be about bums on eggs. I'm not seeing more skylarks. I'm not seeing more lapwings. I'm not seeing more yellowhammers. I'm not seeing more hay meadows. So something is wrong. Something is very, very wrong. The new organisation we now have, Countryside Council for Wales, Environment Agency, Forestry Commission, has now become Natural Resources Wales. Now that's a name and a half. You could have picked a better name to start with, resources. That to me is something to be used and abused, something to be exploited. We'll see if I'm wrong, but I suspect that that's maybe not such a bad name. I am genuinely fed up. It is time for a big, big change. And can you imagine? Can you imagine if you're there with your grandkids and you can turn to them and say, well, cariad bach, do you know what? Just so happens, because of something I was involved in, we were able to turn things around. And if you go and get your wellies, we'll go out now. The farmer over the way has got a couple of wet fields, and do you know what? He's got 8 pairs of lapwing in there. Let's go out and let's have a look at them. Or you go and get your coat. It's a lovely day. Sun is out. Tell you what we'll do. We'll go up the bank there. We lie on our backs, And we'll watch and we'll listen to all the skylarks as they climb up towards the blue sky, and we'll watch them till they disappear. Oh, there's not just one hay meadow around this village now because of these changes we made. There's actually 6 of them. So come on, we'll go out, we'll chase the butterflies. You can run your hand through these flowers and maybe we'll catch a grasshopper. Can you imagine the look in their eyes, the pride in their eyes when they look at you and you say that? And can you imagine what it's going to mean to you here? The knowledge that you were an important part, an integral part of that. Boys Bach, we have to change. And we have to change now. I haven't got a crystal ball. I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen. But I do firmly believe if each and every one of you in here, and we've had some assembly members just coming in now, lovely to see you. If each and every one of you, when you go into your office, when you sit at your desk, thinks about what your grandchildren are going to say to you in 40 years' time, that should drive you on. That should fuel this change. Diolch yn fawr.